At dinner with my parents, she looked them in the eyes while holding my hand and said, "Your son is wonderful, but I'm still keeping my options open." I let go of her hand, stood up, and said 3 words that ended everything. My parents watched in stunned silence as I drove her home without speaking a single word, and when she tried to explain at her door, I told her she was free to explore now and walked away forever. My name is Daniel, and that night was supposed to be a milestone. I'd been with Amanda for 18 months, long enough to know her coffee order by heart, long enough to have a drawer at her place and her toothbrush at mine, long enough to start imagining a future that looked solid and real. I'd spent the afternoon cleaning my apartment, rehearsing a conversation in my head about her moving in. The logic was airtight. My place was bigger, closer to her office. Financially, it made perfect sense. I had the whole speech mapped out, practical and reasonable, the way I approached most things in life. The drive to my parents' house felt normal. Amanda scrolled through her phone in the passenger seat, bathed in blue light, occasionally laughing at something I wasn't part of. She'd been distant all week, distracted in a way that made me uneasy, but when I'd asked about it, she'd waved me off. Just work stress, you know how it gets. I believed her because I wanted to, because believing her was easier than acknowledging the small cracks that had been forming. My childhood home smelled exactly the same as always. Lemon polish, slow-cooked pot roast, old books. My mother Linda wrapped me in a hug that felt like safety, then held Amanda at arm's length and told her she looked beautiful. My father Robert emerged from the kitchen with his trademark firm handshake for me, warm squeeze for Amanda. The table was set with the good china. Sinatra played softly from the old stereo. It was a scene from the future I'd been building in my head. Dinner was perfect. My father's famous pot roast, carrots and potatoes cooked to buttery perfection. The conversation flowed easily. Dad asked about the new project at my engineering firm. Mom asked Amanda about the nonprofit gala she'd been planning. Amanda lit up, animated and charming, describing the silent auction items and the Aspen ski trip she joked about stealing for herself. She was luminous, magnetic, the center of gravity at the table. I just watched, content to orbit her light. Then my mother poured more wine and asked the question I'd been hoping for. "So you two, any big plans on the horizon? You seem so wonderfully settled together." It was the opening I'd been waiting for. My heart did a small skip. I felt Amanda's hand find mine under the table, her fingers cool against my palm. I took it as solidarity, as confirmation. I opened my mouth to begin my rehearsed speech about the next logical step. Amanda spoke first. She leaned forward slightly, her voice taking on this philosophical, confessional tone. "You know, Linda, that's such a great question." She paused, looking from my mother to my father, then down at our joined hands on the white tablecloth. She gave my hand a patronizing little pat, the kind you'd give a child. "Daniel is the sweetest man I've ever known. Truly. So kind, so stable." She said stable like it was a medical diagnosis. "He's like a perfect, cozy fireplace." I felt something cold start in my stomach. But I'm at a point in my life where I need to be absolutely certain about everything. I'm still young, youngish anyway. She laughed, this tinkling sound that felt like breaking glass. "I feel like I owe it to myself to keep my options open, to explore what else is out there before I fully commit. You understand, right?" The world became hyper-focused, crystalline in its cruelty. I saw the tiny wine stain on the tablecloth near my father's plate. I saw my mother's smile collapse in slow motion. I saw my father's fork freeze halfway to his mouth. I felt the weight of Amanda's hand on mine, suddenly heavy and dead, keeping my options open. The words hung in the air like smoke from a house fire. She had just told my parents, the two people who loved me most in this world, that their son was a placeholder. a temporary safe harbor while she shopped for something more exciting, a cozy fireplace while she searched for a destructive bonfire. Silence swallowed the room. The only sound was Sinatra crooning about flying to the moon. I looked at our hands, her slim manicured fingers resting on top of my broader ones in what appeared to be affection, but was actually the most violent act of disrespect I'd ever experienced. Calmly, without a word, I slid my hand out from under hers. The sound of my chair scraping against hardwood was a gunshot in the quiet. I stood up. My movements felt mechanical, precise, like I was watching myself from outside my body. "We should go," I said. My voice was flat, alien even to me. No anger, no tremor, just a simple statement of fact. I walked around the table and pulled out Amanda's chair for her. One last automatic act of courtesy. She stared up at me, her confident expression cracking into confusion. "Daniel, what are you?" "We're leaving," I repeated, not looking at her. I looked at my father instead. He gave me the smallest nod, an understanding passing between us, a transfer of dignity from father to son. I guided Amanda from her chair, collected her purse from the sideboard, and turned to the space between my parents. "Thank you for dinner. It was excellent." Then I led the ghost of my relationship out of my childhood home, leaving the ruins of my imagined future cooling on the dining room table. The cold night air hit like a physical blow. Amanda finally found her voice. "Daniel, stop. What was that? You're being ridiculous." I didn't answer. I unlocked the car, got in, started the engine. She stood outside for a moment before yanking the passenger door open and sliding in. "Are you serious right now?" she demanded, confusion morphing into anger. "You just dragged me out of there because of one little comment?" I pulled out of the driveway, eyes on the dark suburban streets. "It wasn't a little comment, Amanda. Oh my God, you are so sensitive," she exploded. "I was just being honest with them, being real. Isn't that what you always say you want? Honesty. Honesty," I repeated. The word tasted like ash. "Yes, I was telling them the truth. I love you, Daniel. You know I do. But love isn't always enough. There's a whole world out there. I have needs, curiosities. Is it a crime to want to be sure?" I signaled a turn. The click of the blinker was the loudest sound in the universe. "So I'm an experiment," I said. "Not a question, just a conclusion. No, don't twist my words. You're my foundation. But even foundations get inspected, right? To make sure they can handle what's being built on them." The metaphor was so staggeringly selfish it almost broke through my numbness. Almost. For the next 20 minutes, she talked. Her words were a vortex of justification, self-pity, and veiled insults disguised as concern. "You're taking this the wrong way. I just need to grow as a person and you're so content with everything. It's not you, it's me wanting to experience more before I settle. Can't you see this is healthy? This is modern dating. You're sweet, Daniel, but sweetness can be passive." I drove. I didn't look at her. I didn't interrupt. I just absorbed the torrent, letting each word wash over me and solidify the ice in my chest. This was who she was. This had always been who she was. I'd just been too comfortable by the fireplace to feel the draft. We reached her apartment building. I pulled into a visitor spot and put the car in park. The engine idled. The silence returned, heavier now, saturated with her spent rhetoric. She looked at me, expecting something. A fight, tears, begging, something she could manipulate or dominate. I unbuckled my seatbelt and got out, walked around the car and opened her door, one final reflex of courtesy. She got out slowly, searching my face for a reaction. "Daniel, talk to me, please." I looked at her, really looked at the woman I'd thought I'd build a future with, and felt nothing. No love, no hate, just vast empty clarity. She took a step toward me, reaching out to touch my arm. I took a deliberate step back, out of her reach. Her eyes widened. That physical withdrawal, calm and intentional, seemed to scare her more than anything else. I met her gaze. My voice was quiet, final, utterly clean of emotion. You're free to explore now. I turned, got back in my car, and closed the door. In the rearview mirror, I saw her standing on the curb, frozen, one hand still slightly outstretched. I didn't wait to see if she moved. I drove away, and with every block the weight in the car lessened until it was just me, the road, and a silence that was no longer filled with her excuses but with a profound, burgeoning peace. The silence in my apartment was different now. Before it had been passive, a space waiting to be filled with her presence. Now it was active, deliberate, mine. I stood in the middle of the living room where I'd imagined discussing moving and logistics, and I just breathed. The numbness was a cocoon, and inside it something quiet and decisive was reconstructing itself. My phone buzzed. Mom. I answered. Daniel, honey, are you?
I'm okay, Mom.
It's over. A pause filled with maternal anguish. What she said at my table. I know. Please don't. I just need to not talk about it right now. Okay, she whispered. We're here. I hung up. Then I opened my phone and began the surgical process of removal. Blocked her number. Unfollowed her on every platform. Instagram, Facebook, everything. Took less than 3 minutes. I wasn't angry. I was decontaminating a space. The first night I slept like the dead. The second night I woke at 3 a.m. with her words playing on loop. Keeping my options open. I saw my father's frozen fork, my mother's shattered smile. I let the humiliation wash through me without fighting it. I observed it like a scientist studying a toxic sample. By dawn it was done. The sample was logged. The feeling was spent. I didn't call in sick. I went to work, wrote code, attended meetings, functioned. The world kept turning. My hands knew the keyboard. My logic could still solve complex problems. This was a relief. The real work began after 5 p.m. I joined a serious gym, hired a trainer to teach me proper form. The first time I deadlifted a weight that felt impossible, muscles screaming, vision spotting, I thought of her patting my hand. Sweet, stable. I locked out the lift. The crash of the plates on the floor was the most satisfying sound I'd heard in weeks. I enrolled in an advanced certification course I'd been putting off. My evenings developed new architecture. Gym, study, cook. I learned to make perfect pan-seared salmon with crispy skin. I perfected a garlic cream sauce. I ate at my kitchen island listening to history podcasts, and the meal was perfect because I'd made it for myself. Weeks bled into months. The sharp clarity of betrayal softened into a simple, unattractive fact of my history. I thought of her less and less. When I did, it was without heat. She was a person who'd made a choice. I was a person who'd accepted it. The first whisper of karma came through my friend Chris. We were having coffee when he fidgeted with his phone, clearly wanting to say something. Mutual acquaintance drama, he finally said, choosing words carefully. He knew I'd blocked everyone in her orbit. Amanda's new thing is apparently intense. I said nothing, didn't ask. My silence was an open door he could choose to walk through. He sighed. Guy named Brett. Some tech bro who sells dropshipped gadgets online. Drives a leased Tesla. Total vibe guy. Seems like he's the option she was exploring. I waited. From what I hear, it's a disaster. 1 week they're in Miami. The next she's crying to friends because he won't define the relationship. Her friends are exhausted with the drama. I felt a distant, faint ripple. Not satisfaction, just recognition. The unstable bonfire she'd traded her cozy fireplace for was predictably burning everything around it. It was the logical outcome of her search for something that wasn't sweet. "Huh," I said finally. Chris laughed. "That's it? Huh." I looked out the window. She wanted excitement. Sounds like she found it. Chris shook his head slowly. "You're different, man." The old Daniel would have asked 5 more questions just to make sure she was okay. He was right. That man had died politely at a dinner table months ago. "I'm not responsible for her choices," I said. It was the simplest, truest thing I'd said in a long time. A year passed. The certification was completed. My salary increased. My body changed not dramatically, but into something firmer, more capable. The silence in my apartment was now a companion, not a void. The karma seeped in through cracks, reported by the faint echoes of our once shared world. I saw her best friend Monica at a grocery store. She gave me an awkward wave with tight, exhausted eyes. I nodded neutrally and kept moving. Chris later reported that Monica and Amanda had a massive falling out over Brett. The social media glimpses told a silent story. The lavish dinner photos stopped. Posts became infrequent, then erratic. A quote about betrayal. A blurry photo of wine at home. Then nothing for weeks. The first direct contact was a text from an unknown number on a Sunday morning. I was reading, sun warm on my back. "Daniel, it's Amanda. I know I probably shouldn't be texting. I think I made a terrible mistake. Can we talk?" I felt nothing. No heartbeats baik, no chest tightening. Just pixels on a screen. I put the phone face down and finished my chapter. Made coffee. Watched a bird build a nest outside my window. The phone buzzed again 2 hours later. "Please." I created a new contact labeled, "Do not answer." Saved the number, then blocked it. The action felt hygienic. I wasn't ignoring her out of pain. I was filtering a distraction the way I'd filter spam. A week later, a voicemail arrived. I was planning a small deck project when the phone lit up with "Do not answer." I let it go to voicemail, finished measuring, then played it on speaker while cleaning my tools. Her voice was thin, watery, stripped of confidence. "Daniel, it's me. I know you probably hate me. I just need you to know I'm sorry. I was scared and stupid. I said the most horrible thing to the best person I've ever known. You were my home. I didn't know what I had until I destroyed it. Please call me back. I'm so lost." I saved the voicemail not as a treasure but as a benchmark. A reminder of the journey from smug dismissal at my parents' table to this raw need. Useful data. I archived it and moved on. Monica called next.
Daniel, E.
"How are you?" "I'm well, Monica. What can I do for you?" "I'm calling about Amanda. She's really not doing well. Brett was a disaster. Complete fraud. She's wrecked. Her friends are exhausted with the drama. She needs someone stable." I waited. "Look, I know what she did was terrible at that dinner, but would it kill you to show compassion? Just talk to her? You were together 18 months. Doesn't that mean anything?" I looked out at the city lights. "Monica, my compassion was spent a long time ago. I'm not responsible for the consequences of her choices. She wanted freedom to explore. That freedom includes facing the results." "That's cold, Daniel." "It's factual. Is there anything else?" She hung up. The text started that night from new numbers. "Why won't you answer me?" I said I was sorry. "You were never this cruel. Is this revenge? Ignoring me while I fall apart?" I didn't block the numbers. The messages were like weather reports from a hurricane that had already passed. I read them with detached interest. The subtext was clear. Her pain was now my moral failing. The finale came on a Thursday evening. I was prepping vegetables when my building buzzer rang. I ignored it. It rang again, long and insistent, then a third time, frantic. I sighed, walked to the intercom, and pressed the button without speaking. Daniel, it's me. I know you're there. Please, I need to see you. Her voice was frayed, trembling through the speaker. I said nothing, released the button. The buzzer screamed again. My neighbors would complain. The path of least resistance was a brief, firm interaction. I buzzed her in but didn't open my apartment door wide. I stood in the frame, arms crossed, a barrier. She looked diminished. Rumpled clothes, smudged makeup, the vibrant energy gone, replaced by jittery desperation. You won't answer my calls, she said accusatorially. No, I agreed. Why? How can you just shut me out after everything? She took a step forward. I didn't retreat, but my posture didn't yield. She stopped. You asked for your freedom, I stated. You have it. This, I gestured vaguely between us, isn't my problem. Not your problem? Hysterical laughter bubbled out. I'm hurting, Daniel. Brett was a con artist. He's gone. My friends are gone. I have nothing. Silence. Don't you see? She pleaded, tears starting. It was all a mistake. A huge, stupid mistake. You were right. Stable is good. Sweet is good. I was an idiot. I want to come home. The word home landed with a thud. It meant my apartment, my life, the stability she'd publicly dismissed. This isn't your home, I said, voice low and final. Her face crumpled, then hardened. The tears dried up, replaced by frustrated entitlement. You were never this cold. What's wrong with you? Did I break you that badly? I said I was sorry. What more do you want? There it was. The true colors. She wasn't sorry for what she did. She was sorry it didn't work out for her. My refusal was a personal offense. I don't want anything from you, Amanda, I said, tone utterly flat. Not a thing. The simplicity deflated her. She opened her mouth, but no sound came. Goodbye, I said, not as a wish, but as a description. I closed the door, heard a muffled sob, then footsteps retreating. I returned to my kitchen, picked up my knife, and finished dicing the onion. The tears in my eyes were from the vegetable, nothing more. For months later, on a Saturday morning, I was at the farmer's market with Elena. She was an urban planner I'd met through a mutual friend, calm and grounded with a smile that felt genuine. We'd been dating 3 months. It was easy, quiet, mutual. We were debating tomato varieties when I felt a gaze on me, that prickling familiar intensity. Amanda stood 10 feet away near a flower stall, holding an overpriced latte. She looked put together but strained, like a sheet pulled too tight. Her eyes fixed on me, then flicked to Elena, then to our joined hands. A complex calculation of loss and envy flashed across her face. Friend of yours? Elena asked, her voice mild. Someone I used to know? I said, squeezing her hand. It's fine. But Amanda was already crossing the space, ignoring Elena completely, eyes laser-focused on me. Daniel. E. Amanda. I nodded. Awkward beat. The market swirled around us. Can we please just get coffee? Talk as friends. Elena politely studied a honey display, giving us privacy without actually moving away. Her presence was a quiet anchor. No, I said. The word was not harsh, just definitive. Her composure cracked. Why? I said I was sorry. I miss you. I miss us. I took a slow breath, the scent of basil filling my lungs. I looked at her and felt nothing but faint, distant pity for the ghost she was chasing.
Amanda. No.
This is Elena, I gestured. Elena offered a small polite smile. We're in the middle of our day. Amanda's eyes finally darted to Elena, really seeing her. The confidence, the lack of neediness, the way she stood with me, not leaning on me. Fresh desperation hit her face. I just miss you, she repeated, the statement hollow now. I looked at her and achieved the final form of moving on.
Ispoke pure, varnished truth.
I don't think about you, I said, not to hurt her, but because it was simply fact. I wish you well, Amanda, truly, but please don't contact me again. I turned my body slightly, physical punctuation, looked at Elena, and my entire demeanor softened. The bakery with the sourdough is this way. Elena's face lit up with a real smile. Lead the way. We walked. We merged back into the market flow, into sunlight and the smell of bread. I didn't look back. I felt Amanda's gaze on my back for a few seconds, a phantom wait, and then it was gone, dissolved into the noise and life of the perfect present morning. There was no victory in it, no lingering sting. There was only the warm, solid reality of Elena's hand in mine, the basket on my arm, and the profound, peaceful understanding that the past was finally and completely just that. A closed chapter in a book I was no longer reading. I was free, and I had been for a long, long time.